Hey, this is Esoteric the Red, and if you want to go monk mode, um, and you're just one of these people that don't have the means to go out into the woods, or like I said in one of my videos, there's no mountaintop to go to, there's no tree to sit under, the world you live in, like that is your desert. And I've spoken about sort of digging a hole wherever you're at. And in order to do that, you have to physically rip yourself from the things that you use to pass your time so that you can have the time to make room for your spiritual life. Now, say you're like me and you've been burnt a lot with dating and you want to leave dating, but you find yourself just kind of like, well, there's not much to do. Because that's exactly what I found. When I stopped putting all my time and attention towards seeking a partner, for a while there, I filled my nights with drinking, and I was working basically every day. And any free time I had would go to like video games, and of course, I'd scroll on my phone throughout the day. During that time, I got into cooking. I remember that. But that was basically my life every day: drinking, working, playing, and cooking. And when you do the same shit every single day, I don't know if anybody else out there has that happen to them, but it's like everything starts to get stagnant. Eventually, I was big into PUBG, but it was like, eventually I didn't want to play PUBG anymore. I did. After a while, you don't feel like going to the store and buying ingredients. You get tired of waking up with a hangover. And your body starts to ache because you're going to work every single day just about. And it's like, well, you've given up. You've given up trying to find anybody, so it's like, is this it? Is this really it? It's not like money wasn't really a problem, because when you take women out of the picture, you suddenly find you have a lot of it. But you'll just find, just over time, it's a really, really like uneventful, and just a really, really uneventful life. And so if you find yourself in that position, and maybe you'll hear this, because you might actually be ready to basically go monk mode. And even though you don't have the means to, go into the woods, or buy a plot of land, or retire in the Bahamas, just maybe you can dig a little spot in your life to get rid of some of those bad habitual tendencies: less games, less drinking, and, add in practices like meditating or yoga. And so basically, when you find that you remove females from your life in any sort of romantic way, there's basically this hole that you're trying to fill. And you're convinced that this hole can only be filled by having a woman in your life. And a lot of what that hole is purpose. So women give men a purpose that men don't usually have. And what I mean by that is, it's not the same when you're going to work every day and you're hustling and you're putting money back, and all you're doing with your time is drinking and playing video games. It's really, really trivial. It's really, really trivial after a while to live that way. And you find that you don't get the excuse to go, well, I wish I didn't have to work here every day, but I gotta take care of the old lady. No, you're just taking care of yourself, and that's it. And it's really not rewarding. You're not coming home to a child that's excited to see you, a woman who's happy to see you, who asks you about your day and you ask her about her day. No, you're just waking up with hangovers and going to a place full of people that you mostly just tolerate, and you're not doing it for any higher reason or any altruistic reason, and it feels purposeless. And I feel like men need purpose, even if that purpose requires some sort of sacrifice of their labor or their mind or their time. I've seen women use this like they like to be useful, but that's such a way of trivializing it. Everybody likes to be needed, and wanting to use your time in that manner is something that I think should be seen with a little more respect and reverence. But they've trivialized everything these days. There's not a lot of respect and reverence in the world. Not for anything. I'm surprised people go on about dignity the way that they do. They rarely act dignified, and yet they weren't treated with dignity. And so what I'm really getting at here is that if you've given up women and you haven't realized it yet, a lot of what you've given up is purpose. And so going monk mode needs to become your purpose, which is another reason why I harp on dedication. Your purpose has now become becoming the monk. So another thing that you gave up when you gave up on women was you wanted to love somebody. You wanted to take care of somebody. And you feel like a woman is the one thing that can fill that role. And it sucks because a lot of women see that. They see someone that's self-sacrificial and loving. And I've heard them refer to men as, like golden retrievers and stuff like that. But, I mean, who doesn't like a golden retriever? It's not a bad thing that you want to love somebody. But it is something you have to tame, like a golden retriever. We don't all get adopted, but we still have to find our way. And so I urge you to replace that relationship with a relationship with God. And to have an image of that in your mind. I see God as all-encompassing the canvas that our reality is splayed over. And I talk to God in my mind all the time, and I don't hide my heart from Him. It's almost like I see God as my confession booth, my solace. Sometimes I even find myself getting angry with God, but above all, I'm always honest with God. And I always try to realize that, that if He is everywhere, and if He is watching, and if He is the canvas, this is all over, then, then you do have somebody to love. You do have somebody to make proud. That you do have those things. And so I think it's incredibly important that if you're going to remove a woman from your life, because really what you want when you want a woman is you want connection, that you don't remove connection from your life. You aim that at something, you aim that at God. You don't lose purpose. You aim it towards something else. You aim it towards that monk-like contentedness. Start meditating, start observing your thoughts more, start being less of a reactionary, stop watching less content that complains about women, because they're not going to change. There's always some guy that's going to give them attention, always. Because there's always some sucker that didn't get to hear this video. There's always some sucker that didn't have somebody come along and tell them. And so I urge you to add virtue and wisdom into your life, and have a conceptualization in your mind, like an archetype in your mind of who you would like to be, and behave in that way, and actively try to make that your new knee-jerk reactionary. And eventually you will find, through habitual practice, You will be more monk-like. You will be a more contented person. And I definitely love looking at it through the lens of alchemy. Taking, our negative character traits and inverting them, taking all that negative energy and turning it into something else, turning it into something good. I'm really, really, really into like energetic alchemy. For those of you that are aware of spirit, soul, and energies, and um, but those are things that you'll have time for. With this freed up time in your life, and I'm telling you that the relationship with God, while you try to take this sort of alchemical journey, is going to add much, much more fruit to your life, and you're going to be able to relax. And no one's going to be able to control what you do. No one's going to argue with you. You'll be confident. You'll try things. I think that's all for this one.